He is a federal agent, a honey trap, working for the deep state. Those aren't words from the left. That's Eric Metaxas and John Zmirak, prominent right-wing commentators, warning their own audience. 5 Republican campaigns destroyed, 2 sitting members of Congress forced to publicly apologize for appearing with him, $250,000 in Bitcoin appearing in his account 3 weeks before January 6th. Right now, this week, Nick Fuentes just fractured the entire conservative movement with one Tucker Carlson interview, Ted Cruz and Ben Shapiro on one side, the Heritage Foundation on the other, tearing each other apart. Here's what should terrify you. Every single thing he touches helps Democrats and destroys Republicans. And his own former best friend is begging people to stay away, warning that getting close to Fuentes means your cell phone data will be in close proximity to his. The man claims to be America first, but right-wing broadcasters are openly saying he's controlled opposition, and the evidence keeps piling up. Welcome back, Tunnelers. I'm Percival Blackwood. Today we're examining an accusation that would sound absurd if it wasn't coming from inside the House. Right-wing broadcasters, former close allies, and even Fuentes' own followers openly wondering if he's a federal agent. Nick Fuentes rose to prominence as the young face of the America First movement, 20-something charismatic in his own way, building a following of groypers, young, extremely online conservatives. But when you examine his statements over time, something feels off. They're contradictory, theatrical. One day extreme, the next walking it back. It doesn't read like genuine ideology. It reads like someone who knows exactly which buttons to push. And if his extremism isn't real, if it's performance, then what's the point of the act? Let's look at the damage. In late 2022, after being memory-holed by the internet, Nick Fuentes had dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump. The media went insane. The DNC put out statements saying breaking bread with Nick Fuentes would be instantly disqualifying. It was a political disaster. Trump spent weeks fielding questions about dining with a banned, controversial figure. Republicans across the board condemned it. Democrats got to tie Trump directly to extremism, heading into an election cycle. Joe Kent, Iraq war veteran, Gold Star husband, Trump-endorsed candidate for Congress in Washington state, 2022. Positioned to win. Then it emerged Kent had interacted with Fuentes, even praised his work. Democrats blanketed the district with ads about the association. Kent lost a winnable race. One analysis stated, far-right agitator Nick Fuentes was responsible for tanking the congressional campaign of Trump-endorsed candidate Joe Kent, noting that his involvement delighted Democrats. In early 2022, Fuentes hosted his AFPAC conference. 2 sitting members of Congress showed up, Paul Gosar and Marjorie Taylor Greene. The backlash was immediate. Kevin McCarthy publicly rebuked Greene. Both were forced into damage control. Greene claiming she didn't know who Fuentes was. Gosar facing censure attempts. Weeks of stories about GOP Congress members at an extremist event instead of Republican policy wins. Notice the pattern. Every incident hands Democrats attack ads and forces Republicans into damage control. And it's not Democrats making this observation. Steve Deese, a conservative broadcaster, openly wondered if the right wing has been infiltrated by interests that hated the US. Right-wing commentators Eric Metaxas and John Zmirak stated bluntly, he is a federal agent, a honey trap, working for the deep state. These are established conservative media figures questioning whether Fuentes is legitimate. And their logic is straightforward. His rhetoric, whether genuine or performance, is so inflammatory that it makes the entire MAGA movement toxic to moderates. Every time he gets close to a Republican politician, it creates a PR nightmare. The question isn't whether his beliefs are real. The question is whether someone this politically destructive could be this politically stupid by accident. Recently, Tucker Carlson gave Fuentes a friendly interview. It went viral. Millions of views. Within days, the conservative movement split. Ted Cruz and Ben Shapiro condemning both Fuentes and Tucker, the Heritage Foundation president defending them. The Washington Post described it as driving a wedge through the right, creating bitter infighting that threatens the cohesion of the Republican Party. Then reports emerged that Fuentes had met with influential Texas GOP operatives in one of the most important Republican strongholds. Another firestorm. More Republicans explaining themselves, more infighting. It's almost like he has a playbook. Insert himself into Republican spaces, create maximum controversy, watch conservatives tear each other apart. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. Fuentes himself has occasionally made moves that directly undermine Republican electoral prospects. After the 2020 election, furious that GOP officials weren't backing Trump's fraud claims aggressively enough, Fuentes threatened to encourage his followers to withhold votes. He boasted he could flip Michigan for the Democrats if Republicans didn't meet his demands. A supposedly far-right activist threatening to hand a swing state to Democrats. Some former followers caught on. On far-right forums, ex-supporters posted, "It pains me to say this, but I think Nick Fuentes is now controlled opposition. He promoted Kamala Harris, attacked the Trump campaign, and threatened to flip Michigan blue." The most damning accusations come from Patrick Casey, one of Fuentes' closest allies, and a fellow organizer in the Stop the Steal rallies. After January 6th, Casey publicly broke with Fuentes and accused him of leading followers into an FBI trap. Casey warned that Fuentes was organizing gatherings where your face will be visible, your cell phone data will be in close proximity to his, creating a database for federal surveillance. He claimed Fuentes wants you to give him your real name and show up to his event, so everyone could be recorded by investigators. Other far-right figures echoed this. Alt-right comedian Owen Benjamin called Fuentes a Fed honeypot. In December 2020, just before January 6th, Fuentes received $250,000 in Bitcoin from a French donor. Fuentes was later subpoenaed by the January 6th committee and reportedly placed on the no-fly list. Conspiracy forums claimed he received $250,000 to be an agent provocateur at the Capitol. One more layer. Fuentes' recent resurgence coincides with previously banned right-wing accounts being restored. In late 2025, YouTube announced it would reinstate accounts banned during COVID and the 2020 election. Under Republican pressure, Google told Congress it had relaxed its speech policies. Dan Bongino, Sebastian Gorka, invited to appeal and recover their channels. Around the same time, Elon Musk unbanned Fuentes on X. Tucker gave him a platform. Here's the irony. Republicans fought for this. Republican lawmakers pressured Google and YouTube. Republican activists demanded free speech absolutism. They got what they wanted. And now Fuentes is generating GOP infighting that helps Democrats win elections. The right demanded the Trojan horse be wheeled inside the gates. If someone wanted to sabotage the Republican Party, what better way than to let them do it to themselves? So what do we make of this? The case for him being legitimate. He's a young political streamer who's found a niche being provocative, saying whatever generates attention without thinking through consequences. His contradictions are just someone making it up as he goes. Fuentes himself welcomes the GOP civil war, claiming his followers will eventually take over the party. But the case for controlled opposition is strong. Every single thing he does hurts Republicans and helps Democrats. Tanked campaigns, GOP scandals, conservative infighting, perfect attack ad material. His statements are contradictory and theatrical. Not a true believer's consistency, but someone playing a role. And his own people are saying it. Conservative broadcasters, his former closest ally, even his former followers. Here's what we know for certain. Nick Fuentes' prominence is bad for Republicans and good for Democrats. That's not in dispute. The question is whether it's intentional. Sometimes a provocateur is just a provocateur, young, attention-seeking, destructive, without needing to be on anyone's payroll. Hanlon's razor never attribute to malice what can be explained by stupidity. But the pattern is remarkable. Each incident could be coincidence. all of them together start to look like something else. If it is an operation, there's no way to prove it. No smoking gun. Just destroyed campaigns, fractured unity, and warnings from the right that one of their own might be a traitor. Either way, Democrats are winning, Republicans are losing, and Fuentes keeps getting platforms, keeps getting access, keeps doing damage. His act, because that's what it increasingly looks like, keeps working. The contradictions don't matter. What matters is that every time he speaks, Republicans tear themselves apart responding. You can draw your own conclusions, tunnelers, but when conservative voices are calling someone a federal agent, when his former best friend warns he's a honeypot, when his own followers abandon him as controlled opposition, and when his statements are wildly contradictory rather than ideologically consistent, maybe it's worth asking the oldest question in the conspiracy playbook. Cui bono? Who benefits? Right now the answer is clear, and it's not the MAGA movement Nick Fuentes claims to represent. I'm Percival Blackwood. Keep digging, tunnelers. The truth is down here somewhere. If his beliefs were real, wouldn't they be consistent? And if they're not real, then what's the performance for?